Hello, and welcome to the latest HR on the Offensive Live. It's me, Chris Howard from Lace Partners, joining you as always on this Thursday that we love to record our live streams. Today I have a special guest. It's an external. It's somebody that's been on our podcast before, but I decided to drag him on to the live stream as well. And it's Graham Norris, who is an organisational psychologist. Graham, how are you doing? You're also a TEDx speaker as well.
That's right. Yes. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you for asking me back. It's great to have another chance to talk with you.
Yeah, it's really, really good to get you on. Really, really happy to have a little chat. And I wanted to sort of build on some of the conversations that I've seen you do a couple of presentations on around your kind of futurologist mindset. I wanted to do it specifically with the lens of skills and skills-based organizations. So if you are watching this video and you haven't seen so far, we have a campaign at the moment. The campaign is called Becoming Skills Powered. I've just popped a quick descriptor on the screen there. You can get that on the Lace Partners website. But essentially what we're looking at is this premise that organizations, we're starting to see organizations look at a less traditional mindset of how they build their workforce, rather than looking at more traditional methods of you have functions or you have certain types of tasks that need to be completed. It's what's the skills that we need in order to deliver tasks. So rather than think of marketing functions or finance functions, that's one example. We've done a whole variety of different live streams. We've done podcasts. We've got some events that we've been running as well. Some really, really good stuff. So check it out on the website. But I wanted to get you, Graham, on just to have a chat, because what I thought was quite interesting is this concept of having a futurologist mindset. So I wanted to just kind of pick your brains for a minute or two, get you to give me some thoughts around, use this, I guess, the lens of a skills-based organization and how organizations can be thinking differently. How important maybe we should frame what a futurologist mindset is, and then how important do you think it is that organizations are starting to look at this a little bit more deeply?
Sure, absolutely, Chris. Well, I put it like this. What do we pay people to do? We pay them to make decisions. That's the real value that they bring to organizations. And sometimes there's small or executional type decisions, and sometimes there's much bigger decisions. But all decisions are about the future. And so if we think more clearly about the future, then we can make better decisions. Unfortunately, it's not always that easy to think deeply into the future, and we get lost in the sort of day-to-day busyness and urgency and the to-do list and everything else. And so we can become disconnected to the future, which is really the why, the purpose of what we're trying to achieve. And this can happen particularly in organizations where they promote from within. I was working with an engineering company recently, for example, quite a typical situation where you get individual contributors who are very effective, and to reward them, they get promoted, and they get promoted often into management positions, which they may or may not be suited for. But of course, they've got completely different types of decisions to make at that level, involving the teams that they're responsible for, their interactions with other parts of the organization, maybe customers or suppliers and budgets, all these kinds of things. And of course, all those decisions require thinking a little bit more deeply into the future to understand the implications of the choices that they're going to make. And they're not well equipped to do that. They don't have the confidence or the habits to think that far into the future. So that's really what it's about, is having that clarity of what the future might hold, what you want from the future, and what decisions you need to make that future happen.
Okay, and now if we bring this down to almost as an individual level, because we were talking about it just in the virtual green room, if you like, beforehand, and we sort of touched on this when we did the podcast previously as well. I think people would start to think about, can you build this mindset as me as an individual? So if I'm a HR professional watching this video and I'm starting to think, well, what is this futurologist mindset? Well, you've given that a little bit of a background there. I guess my next question is, how easy is it for somebody to just adopt that mindset? There's certain types of traits that people have. What do you see when you think about, on an individual basis, the ability to train this kind of this brain function, if you like, around this futurologist mindset?
I say that there's a futurist in everyone, and everybody can cultivate the futurist within them. We actually spend most of our time thinking about the future. It just happens to be usually we spend most of our cognitive firepower thinking about the next few seconds. So we don't necessarily use all of that energy to think further into the future. So we can think maybe as far as dinner time, but to even think about tomorrow, usually we need to look at our calendars and to think on what's going to happen. And so I'd say there are really maybe 3 skills that we can think about prioritizing if we want to cultivate that futurist mindset. The first I'd say would be curiosity. And so that's curiosity about what's happening now, but also curiosity about what's happened in the past and why that's happened. We often say as futurists that however far you want to look into the future, you first need to look back twice as far. And then curiosity about an awareness about what's happening right now, because the signals of change and the signals of the future are all around us right now. We just have to understand how they might develop into the future and how they might interact with each other. So that's the first skill I would say is curiosity. The second one I would say is imagination, because the future hasn't happened yet, so it exists only in our imaginations. Imagination is like a superpower that maybe humans are unique in the animal kingdom in possessing, but we don't really exercise it that much. As I said, we spend most of our time thinking about the ultra short term, but there are techniques that can help us stimulate our imaginations to think more deeply into the future so we can look at what might happen and what we want to happen as well. So that's the second one, imagination. I would say the third one is probably experimentation. Society now, it celebrates success and penalizes failure. Maybe there are some decisions where it's really that clear cut, but many decisions, they all end up in a gray area. And I think by taking more of a scientist's approach to the decisions we make, where we have a little bit more of an objective view about what the outcomes could be, we can learn much more from our decisions and take those learnings and apply them to our decisions in the future. So we can understand a little bit more about, yeah, it worked, or no, it didn't work. Why did it work? Why did it not work? How much luck was involved? What were the other things, other factors coming into play? So I would say those are the 3 skills I would be looking at to cultivate in terms of, trying to augment our futurist mindset, that curiosity, the imagination, and the experimentation.
How do you spot that potential though? Because again, those are very intangible skills. And if we think about more traditional ways of hiring or looking for, okay, what's our next generation of the workforce? Like, what are we looking for? Is it possible to identify and spot people with that kind of talent? Or is it just something that you just have to have the right culture and environment that you then can nurture that mindset?
Well, firstly, I'd say it's important to have a diversity of perspectives on the future. Even people who may come across as maybe a little bit more conservative or resistant to change can also bring a lot to the table in terms of discussing what the future, what should happen in the future, because they have that sense of heritage and that understanding of the past. Obviously, if they can then translate that to understanding what could happen in the future, that would be ideal, to engage in what we describe as mental time travel, to think about the future and then, understand what happened in the past and make decisions in the present. And so, if you've got someone sitting in front of you, a couple of traits I might be looking for, one would be their ability to look a few steps ahead, or maybe take a 30,000 foot view, the bigger picture, because then they have a better understanding about all the different dynamics that are coming into play and the implications of decisions that are being made. Maybe the second trait I would look at, and maybe even more importantly, is not to be too dogmatic about opinions about the future. We are inclined or prone to making predictions. We like to make predictions and hang our decisions off of those. But if we get too obsessed with our predictions and fall in love with them too much, then we become blind to the evidence that shows almost inevitably that prediction is not exactly going to come about. Or if we have hope that something's going to happen, we can also be blinded to contradictory evidence that suggests maybe that's not going to happen. And one of the biggest mistakes we make is ignoring or failing to consider futures that we don't like the sound of. So those are the 2 traits if I had someone sitting in front of me that I might be looking for, is their ability to look at the bigger picture and also to be more agile and loose-minded about what the future might hold.
I really, really like that. It's almost an element of the ability to be flexible, realizing that evolution happens. It happens in different directions. It happens for businesses, it happens for individuals, but you have to be flexible in your own mindset in order to be able to look that far ahead. I really, really like that kind of that way of thinking. We're just on time for today. I thought some of that stuff that you've talked about is really, really fascinating, because I think this is an area that organizations should really be considering in terms of their future skills and workforce. How do you get people that can look a little bit further than just over the fence, maybe two gardens over, so to speak? So really, really interesting stuff. Graham, if people wanted to reach out to you and have a quick chat, have you got a website? I mean, I'm sure they can find you on LinkedIn as well, but do you want to direct them towards anywhere in particular?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on LinkedIn by searching my name. There's an actor also with my name, but hopefully you'll find me quickly enough. Or my website, which is my name, grahamnorris.me, M-E.
Lovely. So if you've liked hearing what some of Graham's got to say, I would also suggest checking out his TED Talk that you know. It was really, really fascinating. He goes into a little bit more detail and gives some really, really cool examples that bring this to life. We've only just scratched the surface today because we only do these short live streams. But Graham, thank you very much for giving us a bit of your time today.
Thank you very much indeed, Chris.
Thank you very much. And hopefully we're going to catch you next time on the HR on the Offensive live stream. Bye-bye.